in a tiny village in India, where roads were made of dust and houses made of clay, there lived a little boy with biggest eyes you have ever seen. He was not rich, he was not powerful, but those eyes were always watching. His father was a school teacher. His mother sometimes borrowed rice from the neighbors just to cook dinner. Life was hard, but in the small home, there was always love and there was always hope. Every single day, little Dhiru would climb up onto the old stone wall at the edge of the market and watch. He watched who sold, he watched who bought, he watched who smiled and who struggled. He was studying the world. One afternoon, his mother looked up at him from the street below and asked, "Dhiru, what are you always looking at?" He pointed at the merchants. "Amma, why do some men have shoes and others don't?" She thought for a moment. Then she said, "The ones with shoes sell." Dhiru went very quiet. Then he nodded slowly, like a boy who had just understood something that would stay with him for the rest of his life. At 15, with his father ill and the family struggling, Dhiru set up a tiny food stall at the base of holy Mount Girnar, frying golden crispy bhajias for pilgrims climbing the mountain. His hands got burnt, his feet got tired. He earned only a few rupees a day. But every evening, counting his small coins beside the cooling fire, he was smiling. Because he was learning. And for Dhiru, learning was always a real prize. He kept a little notebook. Every sale, every prize, every pilgrim who stopped, and everyone who didn't. He was 15 years old and already thinking like someone who was going to change the world. At 17, he made the biggest decision of his young life. He packed a small bag, said goodbye to his family, and boarded a ship to Aden in Yemen, alone to a country he had never seen. Most people would have been terrified. Dhiru stood at the back of that ship and smiled at the horizon. Aden was a huge, roaring port city. Ships from every nation, trades from every corner of the world. Nothing like his quiet little village. Dhiru got a job as a clerk, earning just 300 rupees a month. But he was not there to earn. He was there to learn everything. And here is a little secret. While other workers drank cheap tea at the canteen, Dhiru paid more to sit at a hotel nearby. Because there is where the big businessmen talked. He would sit quietly, notebook open, pretending to read, listening to every single word. He was getting the best education in the world, for the price of one cup of tea. After years of learning and saving, he returned to India, to the great city of Bombay. And it was here, standing at the doorway of a new life, that the little boy from the dusty village became the man the world would one day know, Dhirubhai Ambani. He rented a tiny room, 2 old tables, 3 chairs, 1 telephone, and he gave his company a name, Reliance. That tiny room, that 1 telephone, that was the beginning of everything. One evening, he picked up the telephone and said, quietly, completely calmly, "We will be the biggest. Watch." He was not boasting. He simply believed it before anyone else did. And that is one of the most important things in this entire story. At home, his wife Kokila cooked dinner and waited for him every night. She never complained. She just kept the lamp burning and the food warm because she believed in him too. Behind every great dream, there is always someone quietly keeping the light on. Slowly, Reliance grew. Dhirubhai built a great textile factory and made a beautiful colorful fabric called Vimal, selling it not to the rich but to everyone. Farmers wore it, teachers wore it. A whole nation was wearing fabric made by the boy who once fried Bhajias on a mountain. When the World Bank came to inspect his factory, they called it world class, as good as anything, anywhere in the world. The barefoot boy from Chodwa had done it. But Dhirubhai was not finished. In 1977, he did something India had never seen before. He went to ordinary people, farmers, mothers, shopkeepers, and said, "You can own a piece of my company. You can be my partner." 58,000 families said yes. They queued in the streets, clutching their forms like precious letters. It looked like a festival. It felt like one. In one of those queues, a mother in simple green sari bent over her form, writing slowly with a small pencil. When she finished, she held the paper to her chest and whispered, "For my children, for their future." That was exactly what Dhirubhai had always wanted. Not just a company, a country where everyone could dream. But every great story has a storm, and this was Dhirubhai's. Powerful enemies wrote bad things about him, tried to block him, tried to break him. But every time they knocked him out, he stood up and built something even bigger. He believed that every difficulty was just an opportunity wearing in disguise. Years passed. He built refineries, chemical plants, and energy facilities so vast they could be seen from the sky. His Jamnagar refinery became the largest in the entire world. One quiet evening, the old man in his simple white shirt stood at a railing and looked out this blazing beautiful empire. This thing that had started with a Bhajiya stall and a notebook full of sums. And he said softly to the night, "It was always possible." And even then, even as one of the richest men in the world, Dhirubhai Ambani still wore his plain white cotton shirt, still carried his steel tiffin box with home-cooked food, still sat beside the youngest workers and listened to them, really listened, like they were the most important people in the room. Because to him, they were. Great people are never too big to be kind. And back in that village of Chodwa, on that same old stone wall, another small boy sat, barefoot, big dark eyes scanning the market below, watching, counting, dreaming, just like Dhirubhai Ambani once had. Because that is how dreams work. They don't die. They simply find a new pair of eyes and begin again. The little Bhajiya fire still burns at the foot of the mountain. The smoke still curls slowly into the evening sky. And if you listen very carefully, in the wind, in the warmth, in the quiet of the dusk, you can almost hear a small voice whispering, "Dream big, start small, never stop." Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya.